Victor joined in. You want to swear the testimony you're giving will be the truth, the testimony you do?
I do, based on the city plan.
Would you state your name, spell your name, and speak in the microphone?
Willie Zambrano,
Spell your name.
WilliZambrano.
Your address, please.
234 Sheridan Street, Perth Amboy.
Thank you.
Joseph Paterno from the law firm of Hamlin Hill on behalf of the applicant and owner 155 Jefferson LLC. This application involves property located at 155-161 Jefferson Avenue, which is in close proximity to the building that we're in this evening. I'll give a brief overview of why we're here. The applicant is seeking site plan and variance approvals to alter the existing building. There's going to be some demolition and a partial addition. The end result will be a 10,000 square foot retail building, one story, that can accommodate up to 4 retail tenants. The site is located in the C-5 zone, that's your commercial 5 zone district. The proposed retail use is permitted. The variance relief we're seeking concerns a side yard setback for the proposed building addition. We are improving and increasing the parking area. That parking area happens to be located in the front yard. We are seeking a variance relief and design waiver for that condition. We are also seeking relief from failure to provide loading space. We'll confirm with testimony this evening that the type of retail tenants that are going to occupy this size building will not be receiving deliveries that would require a standard loading space to be utilized. The deliveries will utilize the parking that's being provided. This is, as you'll see this evening, an adaptive reuse of an outdated structure. We have exhibits of the demonstrating the current condition of the building, the winter stay of the building. That's located again short distance from here. This adaptive reuse of the property will result in a total reduction in floor area. Despite the fact that we're putting on an addition, the end result will be less floor area than what exists today. The parking, as I said before, will actually increase from current conditions. The grading improvement, as demonstrated in the harbor review letter, will provide a thermal dimension, which currently does not exist today. There's a landscaping and lighting proposal, all of which will further promote the aesthetic upgrade of this property. That's an overview of our application. If there's no preliminary questions, I will have Mr. Zambrano, our architect, qualify and then begin testimony concerning the renovations to the building. Mr. Zambrano, briefly, can you provide the board with education and area expertise and the licenses you hold?
My areas of expertise are commercial, residential, industrial, government, and housing. I'm currently licensed in New Jersey, New York, Florida, and Pennsylvania. City College in the city of New York. I have a bachelor's of architecture and also a BS science and architecture.
Science and
Architecture.
you're dropping the voice.
Okay. I understand.
Mr. Zambrano, all your licenses are currently in place and in good standing?
Yes, they are.
Thank you, Chairman.
Have you ever been?
No, I have one here in Jersey City.
Welcome to
Thank you.
I guess, Mr. Zambrano, the best place to begin is with your exhibit. If you're this evening, I'd like to Mr. Zambrano, depicting photos of the site in question. These photos were taken under your supervision?
Yes.
These photos were taken under your supervision?
Yes, sir.
The marquees exhibit.
Thank you.
All of them, since they're stated together, they're today.
3-page package exhibit A. Exhibit A1.
And we'll distribute those. And you have these on the large board also?
Yes.
You have somebody standing on
Yes.
Send it out.
Mr. Zambrano, what's been marked as Exhibit A1? Can you take the commissioners through the photos that appear on Exhibit A1?
Sure.
Photos and numbers.
Okay. So, the first page shows the existing conditions of what's currently on the site at present. Photograph number 1 is a straight up shot of the building looking across the street, Jefferson.
Yes, Commissioners, what you're looking at here, again, those same photos that are here. And that's when he refers to photo 1, he's referring to the same one as you have.
They're the same exact replica for what you have in front of you. Number 2 is from the side. Number 3 is the same as number 1. And 4, 5, 6, and 7 are just contextual buildings surrounding here. Adjacent to the building, to the left, and to the right.
Mr. Zambrano, the current structure is 3 stories, primarily, is that correct?
Yes,
And our proposal is to demolish the 3-story portion of the building, correct?
correct,
Leaving the rear 1-story portion.
correct.
What the rear building looks like more than 1 story. This is building. It looks like it has a second floor.
Mr. Zambrano, can you explain the portion that is more than 1 story?
The portion that's more than 1 story is the rear part of the building, which is more or less 2. In the end,
Supposed to take off the floor?
take off the second and third floor on the front of the building, and the second floor on the back of the building. And partial demolition up to almost like 100 feet in to the property.
Approximately where the fire escapes are in picture number 1?
The second fire escape.
Second fire escape.
Yes.
Mr. Zambrano, I mentioned in my overview that as a result of this application, the total floor area from what exists today to what is proposed will be reduced. Can you give those numbers that appear on your exhibit?
We have prepared the building information that you see here as a chart.
Sorry, please do I say we have to compare?
We have prepared the chart that you see on the first sheet, and that gives you an overall of what we're proposing, what we're demolishing, and what we're, the current existing building area is 18,000 square feet approximately. And we're coming down to 10,500 square feet as a 1-story.
And Mr. Zambrano, would have our civil engineer that will testify next, but the front portion of the building will be removed to allow for a new 26 parking lot, correct?
That is correct.
basically cutting the tall layer out off and squaring off the stuff.
That's correct. That's correct. And we're also infilling in between.
That's the squaring off, the infill.
Mr. Zambrano, can you move your testimony to the third page of the exhibit, which has the proposed building elevations? Can you just briefly give the commissioners an overview of the building materials that you envision utilizing, the color scheme, some of the architectural features that you've incorporated into the design?
What we're proposing to do is just, since it is going to be a retail store, or stores, storefronts, as you can see, aluminum and glass, insulated storefront glazing. We have provided brick for the entire face of the building. Brick face, finish. And we have also provided a canopy in order to protect the customers from inclement weather. We have provided signage, and it's to comply with current zoning regulations.
And it's just, not to interrupt you, but regarding the signage, there was a comment from the neighbor's office, one confirmation that the proposed signage conforms with the ordinance. It's your testimony that it does meet the ordinance limitation?
It does.
It does. Is this building going to be fully code compliant, ADA?
It's going to be ADA compliant, and it's going to comply with all building code requirements.
Mr. Zambrano, have you had an opportunity to review the remaining department comments issued? I'm referring to the fire department review letter and the health department review letter. You have engineering review letter that our next witness will address. But with regard to the fire department letter, can you just briefly speak to fire protection?
This building is under 12,000 square feet. Mercantile occupancy does not require.
I got two conversations. It's very difficult. Keep your voice up.
The square feet is under 12,000 square feet. If you have less than 12,000 square feet, you don't require sprinklers or fire protection in this building.
Body code.
By code.
Thank you. I have no further questions for Mr. Zambrano.
Commissioners, are there questions for Mr. Zambrano?
Yes, did you say, did you say what type of store? Only retail?
That I don't know, but it's supposed to be retail, mercantile store. It's whatever tenants come in, I really don't.
I can answer the question on behalf of, there is a representative of the property owner here, but it's my understanding that the building is designed for spec retail, the types of retailer permitted by ordinance. There's no tenants that have been secured yet, and the building's been designed to accommodate up to 4. That could change depending on the needs and the marketing of the building. So there's no designated tenants yet for this
You
building.
indicated in your initial discussion that the type of retail would be able to be loaded from the front.
Correct.
Without knowing what's coming there, I can say that.
And then we're getting to Mr. Zambrano. As an architect, the types of tenants in your design, similar size retail buildings, and retail space, I believe each unit is 2,500 square feet, correct?
Yes.
In your experience designing similar retail buildings, do those types of retail tenants require deliveries from a tractor trailer or other large vehicle?
No, it's too small to actually bring in those stuff.
Not at all, they're small.
They're too small to bring in that type of shipping requirements.
So if there's a food place that they can go in there, you're saying that the largest thing would be a box truck?
A box truck.
Our engineer also has a question.
Any other questions, commissioners?
Council, your plan is understanding that the tenants have to be those permitted in the zone, and any tenant that's not is required to be variance or leave the trip to the zoning board?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Benaber, you have questions? questions for Mr. Zambrano?
Yes, only these types of buildings, the retail have secondary form of ingress and egress fire. Where would that be on?
If we require to have those kind of conditions, then we for sure we would add another second means of egress by a corridor or some sort of a.
I afford that building. Where I'm going with that is, you're showing the infill building about less than a foot from the property line. So if you're looking at that rendering, with that person standing, that side is showing to the property line. If you move the building in, say you 3 feet off the property line, you didn't have to, maybe you would do something in the corner. Not all of it, but further back to the old building, and then you can have a fire exit to the rear building. I think that makes sense. Do you think?
That is possible, yes.
So that's not the case of close. What I'm saying is, the building an infill building, he's adding an addition. He's going to build it right to the property line. Instead of building the new building right to the property line, so it's short of the property line by about 4 feet. This is where that can be, and that can go to the rear of the building. They can have a fire corridor to the rear of the building, so that people can leave.
Come down that corridor and then come out that alley. Yeah, and plus the fact that this board has always been very strong on granting access to our fire department in need.
Yes, and also
Fire.
it's difficult to build a building that has, wide footing with the footing right on the park.
The only, Mr.
I
Zambrano,
wouldn't have a problem shorting the building by about 3 or 4 feet on that one side.
I don't have a problem, but I would have to consult with my client as well.
the only issue,
We'll give you a minute.
the one concern that we do have is, the reason why it's setback regulations is to continue the existing setback line of the structure that we're preserving there. Otherwise, it's going to be jobbed in and a little bit.
Mr. Carroll, this wall is there. What can be right is not there, and we want to see it right.
But I don't think this building will be fire. Normally, a building of this size, at this depth, you need a secondary form of ingress and egress, either at the rear or something on the side. You're right at the property line.
So then, if the board were, if this was agreeable to the board, I would defer to the fire department when it's time for permits. If the applicant would need to jog in at that point,
What I'm going to suggest is
They
that
also go for variance. You're self-creating hardship. The existing building is hardship. The new building is not a hardship.
To clarify, where would you want physically to show the board? Where are you going to put
Do
in
you
the
have a plan view?
Yes.
Right there, plan view?
This part of the building here is proposed. This is empty space now. This is the existing building. The existing building is up to the property line on all corners. Same view. It would be bring this building. The idea is to make this building possibly 3.5 to 4 feet over from the property line here. This would be open to the air. Then you have a fire access door here. So that you create a fire access out of the secondary form. Ingress and egress in case something happens in the front, you have a side door out. So it would be, this is the existing building, light brown, the new building, the new building. That may not even be enough to satisfy the fire. So normally the doors for the retail facility up to about 50 feet depth, and normally a rear door out, metal door. But this building is running off the property line.
What's directly behind that building to the rear? Is
Residential property, the proceeds buildings here.
sorry, there's like,
You have to defer to the site.
According to the site plan, there is a one-story brick building, but there would be a yard back there according to this. So the possibility exists that you got an easement to get out, the fire door in the back, access back.
But you would be encumbering the adjoining properties.
What I'm going to suggest is, if you want 2 minutes to go talk to your client about this now, you take a short recess. No? I'm getting a yes from back there, but a short recess. Now, you don't, Joe, you want? Yes. Okay. We're standing adjourned for 2 minutes. Wait for Mr. Wolf.
I had an opportunity to speak to the owner's representative, and we have no problem with that. Taking Mr. Benega's suggestion, providing a second easy egress, whether it be from the side and or the rear corridor, rather than not having easement, the rear corridor that will allow sufficient means of second form of egress, work with, obviously, the building department
And the fire department.
to come up with a solution.
But what I'm going to suggest is, if we get to that point of preliminary tonight, that before final is issued, that issue will be resolved to the satisfaction of Mr. Benetti, the building department, and of the fire department. Okay, do you have any other, are there any other questions for this witness?
Mr. Chairman, with that proposal, and that is up in the air, the garbage, where are we going to put the garbage? You don't even know, we don't know what retailers are going in there at this time.
Sorry,
We do not know what retailers are going into that building at this time, whether it's a food distributor or whatever, we don't know. Where are you looking at garbage? And the second part of that question is this: if we do propose to move that building over, and you do have that egress in the back, is that going to be used as a storage area for garbage?
we have our engineer will identify, the site plan provides a reference area, so we'll have our site engineer identify where it's going.
There is one mark on the top, on the first survey. It's
in the parking
It's in the parking area near the street. There is one mark there. It's hard to see with all these lines, but there is one there. Any other commissioners? Next witness, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right,
Chairman, can you show me where that's located?
Yes.
My Bible.
Could you state your name, and your address, please?
Carl Jenny, Jenny. My office is at 1362 Crane Road, Crane with a C, in Bridgewater, New Jersey.
Mr. Chairman, can you provide a little more education in area in the plans? I'm sorry, go back to that. Don't worry about it. Provide a little more education, very expertise, and licenses.
I have a Bachelor of Engineering from the Stevens Institute of Technology. Bachelor of Engineering from the Stevens Institute of Technology. I also have a Master's in Business Administration from Rutgers. I've been licensed in both the state of New York and New Jersey as a professional engineer since 1980. My licenses are currently valid.
Have you ever appeared before any boards of Mr.
Yes, I was before this board for the same applicant for the 40 Parker Road project.
Okay, you are accepted as a qualified witness. This is familiar. We want a little more gray than the last time.
Oh, please, please.
Mr. Chairman, can you take the board through the site plan, which you prepared for the application?
Yes, I also have reduced copies of the plans that we can pass out to the board members.
Mark these exhibit exhibits and render the site plan.
Yes, it's the same plan, it's colorized, and we added one additional item to the zoning table based on this new neighborhood subdivision. Just a free reduction. These are reduced scale copies of the same drawings that are on the easel.
Can we mark this as exhibit A2?
There is no difference between the plans that were submitted to the board and sheets 2 and 3. The only change to the plans that were submitted to the board on sheet 1 is that I've added to the zoning table information on the percentage of landscape area, and I've also colorized the parking lot and landscape area.
Mr. J, can you just briefly discuss the C5 zoning and the proposal this evening?
The C5 zoning is a commercial zone in town with a minimum lot area of 6,000 square foot, minimum width of 40 feet, lot depth of 150, allowance of building and impervious coverage of 100%, allows a building height of 6 stories rather, and 65 feet. Front yard, side yard, and rear yard are prevailing to be calculated based on prevailing conditions as per the ordinance. This property provides more than the minimum lot area. Its lot area is 19,624 square feet. The lot width is 85 square feet, which is more than the 40 required. The lot depth is 210, which is more than the 150 that's required. The existing site now has an impervious coverage of about 98%. There's very little landscape area, 95, 98%. With the proposed improvements that we're making with removing the building and parking and adding landscaping, we will be reducing that impervious cover down to 90.6%. The building that's proposed is 1 story at 29.53 feet, which is less than what's allowed. Our prevailing yard calculations show that the prevailing area front yard is 8 foot, with the proposed building being cut off, with the existing building near the street being cut off, and our proposed building on the left and the back. We're looking at a front yard of 112, which more than complies with that. Side yard requirement, the prevailing was 2 foot. The existing building on the upper portion of the sheet, which is the northeast side of the building, is on the property line. In the rear, part of it is on the property line, and it expands as you go down the sheet to the lower right to about 1.1 foot off the property line. The existing building on the bottom end of the sheet, which is the southwest corner of the building, of the property rather, starts at 2.3 foot in the rear and reduces to 0.9 foot away from the property line. What we are proposing with this infill of the building, short of the change that was discussed previously, would be to infill the building and get no closer to the property line than the existing building. Obviously, if the change that was discussed was adding an outdoor walkway there and additional landscaping, we would more than comply with the
There is an additional requirement for landscape percentage as a percentage of the driveway. The allowance is 20%, minimum 20% landscaping area, and the proposed site that we have, we calculated that number out to be 30.6%, which is also compliant. The current property, while it isn't striped for parking, if you lay parking spaces out in there, you could probably get about 10. They would not be fully compliant with the town code for aisle width and length. They would be close. There's also
That
a
building
loading dock.
exceeds the town code.
Absolutely. There's also a loading dock in the middle, but potentially the existing site would provide about 10 spaces. Based on 300 square foot per space for the proposed use in this zone, the 10,000 square foot results in a requirement of 33.3 parking spaces. Mr. Member has rounded that up to 34. I rounded it down to 33. 34 is the number. We are providing 20 spaces. Of those 20 spaces, one of them is a van size handicap space, and all of that parking exists between the front property line and the building. Therefore, there is a variance that we're requesting also for parking. The parking in the front yard also results in some design waivers to the design standards. One is that there's ordinance does not allow parking within 10 foot of the street line. We are proposing to have our first phase start at 5 foot from the street line. The main reason for that is to be able to fit those spaces in and provide a striped area adjacent to the building prior to the first space to allow proper movement of the vehicles to come in and out. It really is not good to have a parking space directly adjacent to the curb and require people to maneuver in and out without having some space next to them. Excuse me. The second waiver is parking is only allowed in the rear or side yard. Parking in the front yard, therefore, is not allowed, and parking in the front yard. While this entire area in front of our building is the front of the building, since we have a front prevailing distance in the area of 8 foot, it could be argued that only the first 8 foot of the property is truly the front yard. And therefore, since our parking is 5 foot away from the property line, it's really, we're only providing parking in the 3 foot of that prevailing front yard area. Again, we're doing that because the building is in the back. If we were to demolish the whole building and put a different building in, you could possibly rearrange the parking. But with a width of only 85 foot, it makes it very difficult to be able to have a travel aisle, to put parking in the back, and still maintain a reasonable square footage of proposed building. The last waiver that we're looking for, associated with parking, is for the loading space. The ordinance requires for 10,000 square foot that a loading space be provided. None is being proposed, as we stated earlier. The applicant is proposing a specific higher level clientele for retail store here, and that store does not receive large shipments, as was discussed earlier. Most of the shipments may come in with UPS or FedEx trucks. Maximum would be a box truck, so that those are very easily maneuverable in and out of the parking area. Very common with buildings all over Elizabeth and elsewhere, and therefore a loading dock is not being proposed. For the flow of the traffic, we have a driveway with a center aisle. On either side of the property, outside the curb line, we have landscaped area. On the southwest, along the southwest curb line of the parking area, we have a sidewalk that runs from the sidewalk out by the street all the way to the building, because we do expect that there will also be walk-up
based on available parking in the area. So therefore, we do have a sidewalk connecting the building and the rear all the way out to the street. The discussion before about the garbage and recycling area would be appropriate to address at this point. On the rendered plan, in the lower right corner, shall we say, out here on Jefferson Avenue, there is a hunk of gray with green on both sides. That gray is the concrete pad that we're proposing for the garbage and recycling area. It's readily accessible along the sidewalk from the buildings. The owner has evaluated different types of garbage collection. They're looking at a private hauler for garbage and recycling. As in this location, should there be a corridor for secondary egress from the building, constructed on the building itself, as far enough away for impact and movement during an emergency situation. It is on the other side of the sidewalk from the parking areas, and it is, in order to get to it from the parking lot, the vehicle collecting the recycling and garbage would need to go through that parking space.
I assume that will take place early in the morning.
It would be scheduled certainly so that it would minimize impact with the customers. There is a possibility that could be identified as an employee parking lot. Garbage collection isn't that often, parking space rather. Collection wouldn't be that often, it could easily be scheduled not to conflict. Typically, garbage collection wouldn't conflict with it.
There's also immediately below that southeast of it, a two-story dwelling. So obviously the type of garbage that's going to be stored there, if it's food refuse, it's got to be taken care of in a totally different way than boxes. Because you don't want the resident next door having to suffer the smells.
Oh, absolutely. In terms of engineering the site generally drains from the building out towards the street. That's the general slope of the property. Currently, there is no stormwater facilities on the site. The rainwater in the building flows out either onto the adjacent properties, probably, and also onto the parking area. What we're proposing, not only reducing the amount of impervious coverage by additional landscape area, but we are including construction of 2 dry wells online with pipe system that would bring the roof leaving water out underneath the parking lot, and also collect the water in the parking lot. Overflow from the dry wells would go out through the curb face to the street, very similar to what has been constructed on the adjacent properties. And any natural water that the parking lot was designed so that the water wouldn't pocket in the corners of the parking spaces. It all drains out to the driveway area, which would then drain out to the street. Utilities will be all new utilities to the back of the building, and the electric will be underground out to a new proposed telephone pole or utility pole out near the street line for the service to come across from the other side of the street for the current electrical services.
Mr. Chen, have you had an opportunity to review the harbor consultants engineering report?
Yes, I do.
Can you just briefly address the remaining items in Mr. Venega's report? Mr. Zambrano has the signage, and I believe you provided the landscape ratio calculation Mr. Venega requested to confirm that you put that in the line.
Yes, his general comment number 3 raised the question of landscaping, and we are providing 30.6%. His question number 4, that the applicant should verify the location and condition of existing sanitary sewer. We verified the location of the line in the street based on the sewer manholes that were observed in the street. At this point in time, we have not done any intelligent inspection of the line or evaluated the condition. That will be something that, if it your question. The lights that we show and propose on this plan are similar fixtures to what this board approved a year ago for the 40 Parker Road application. We anticipate that unless the board has an issue, that the fixtures themselves will be black.
Mr. Jenny, you've also reviewed the engineering report from the Department of Public Works and Engineering in the City of Elizabeth.
Yes, I agree.
Any comments or issues regarding that report?
They reference two town ordinances, which when I read through those particular ordinances, they are already incorporated into the zoning code. That's related to flood damage and municipal stormwater, so we comply with the code, therefore we're complying with those ordinances. The third one was compliance with the NJDEP regulations. NJDEP regulations that every town was required to include in their ordinance also is being complied with. Typically, the higher level of stormwater management is needed if you have what's called a major project. And the major project is defined as disturbing an acre of property or adding at least 1/4 new impervious cover. We do not qualify under either of those. This is therefore not a major project in terms of DEP. The stormwater criteria then defaults to RSIS, which defaults to the municipal ordinance and comply with the stormwater requirements.
I have no further questions.
Commissioners,
Mr. Chairman, yes, I have.
Mr. Sheldon.
I have two concerns going back to the refuse issue.
Say
I have two concerns going back to the refuse issue. One which you brought up a few minutes ago, the location of it, but the size of it, 9 feet by 9 feet is the area. Now, is that large enough container on there to handle the refuse of 4 different businesses, whatever they might need, especially if one is a restaurant type? Is that large enough to accommodate that?
One just clarification on the Jenny answer. We didn't have a restaurant, as McNamara talked about. We need to go to the zoning where that's not, restaurant's not.
Well, I take that place. I mean,
No, it's not permitted. Food establishment is not permitted use without the zoning board granting it.
but it could occur.
If the zoning board does, and then of course, if we hear that it's going to happen, we can reach the zoning board and tell them we've got to get that garbage dumpster changed.
Also, the location, well, is that large enough to handle 4 stores regardless of the...
Of the type of stores that are envisioned here, yes. Not if there's a food store, but that's not part of the presentation.
All right. Now, I have a concern with the location of it. According to this, it looks like it's right up against the adjacent private home. It's like a dwelling. I don't
It's set back.
I don't think that's the best appropriate or considered location for it.
Well, it's set back 3 foot off the property line. So
3 feet is another.
off the property.
And the property line of the house itself next door is from the property.
It's very close.
I believe it's about 2.
So that's 5 feet. It's 5 feet from the house.
5 feet, it doesn't, it appears
Are
like...
you putting a fence on that side?
Yes, there is a fence. There will be a fence on either property line.
What type
Roughly
of
4 foot line fence.
Victor? What, do you have any request for what kind of fence you want to see there?
What type of fence is proposed?
Is there a proposal?
A metal fence is what we stated. We're not necessarily looking at an ugly chain link fence.
Don't want to change.
That was for the dumpster. We don't really have detail for the.
We make conditions like that.
Okay. Any other commissioners have any questions?
I have the same concern about the dumpster being right next door to the dumpster being right next door to residential property.
come early in the morning, they're gonna wait for people.
Or late at night, I haven't seen complaints already.
The rear of those buildings have dumpsters in the rear, so I mean, a truck that's coming to this property will also be coming, some other truck will be coming to the particular property.
Building next door, you're saying that's a dumpster?
That house and there's that house, there's a driveway, and then there's another building. And the driveway goes to the back, and all that parking area is in the back. And while this shows, two-story dwelling, to be honest, I don't recollect anymore if that house, if that building actually is residential, or if it's commercial, like the building further.
Why don't we say this? If this is approved on preliminary, we're going to do some little checking and see if we can come up. What's in that building and what we can come up with.
Food product, it's not going to be a restaurant. You can do in terms of trash inside the building. It's not a problem for recycling and garbage. So if you're going to do a flyer corridor, a small block wall flyer for the internal garbage inside the building, and get rid of the big dirt. There's nothing.
Yeah, I think this is something that would be investigated between a preliminary should be granted and a final and change, because it concerns me too, because I have to follow up on this parking. You mentioned that space could be an employee space. Well, I envision 4 stores, then with 2 employees per store, 8 parking spaces. Now you only have 12 parking spaces. So my concern there is, there's a nice city garage across the street. Maybe the employees could be parking there rather than in front of the building, because, I always marvel at the store owners who allow themselves to park in front of their stores and then complain that the residents can't find a parking space.
Or complain that their customers
Can't get a parking space, can't find a parking space. And they're occupying those spaces and feeding the meters all day. And the bottom line is, that was marvelous. Befuddles me as to why they're saying that. In this case, I would hope the owners would have enough sense to say, for the sake of my customer, I'll pay for a parking space in the Jefferson Avenue parking garage behind the police headquarters. It makes a lot of sense, and they do offer great monthly prices from what I've been told by the parking authority. So I would hope that will also be considered. Any other comments, questions? You have any other witnesses? Anyone? Victor?
Normally for projects of this size, we only have some form of storm drainage that's beside a small curb. You have a catch basin to the northerly of the street, to the north of it. It's only less than 30 feet away. And you would not even have to go out to the street. You can get a direct connection. So I would recommend modifying the way you created the parking lot. Get it to the northernmost corner of the lot, construct a catch basin there, and tie into the catch basin near the intersection of East Grand and Jefferson. Get 30 feet of parking.
going under the new sidewalk on the adjacent property, or out of that street? Just tunneling under, or
We
replacing
can
it?
dog hunt, replace the sidewalk, or you can, it's only 30 feet this way, you have snow melt, you're not having all the drainage before you go out over the sidewalk.
That makes sense. Would
You
I
have
would I be able to have a catch basin on top of the driveway as opposed to constructing a structure?
a single basin would be cast between top of the drywall and a small 18 feet pipe on top of the whole wall or RCP. You can put, maybe you can come even under the sidewalk, kind of that catch basin. And I've just laid it out in my plan. You won't have to go, you won't be touching your neighbor's property. You can entirely with your right.
Sounds like something certainly doable.
Last question I have is, the brick pavers are coming out, paved that lot. That lot has cobblestone. That's coming out.
Cobblestones continue to be a priority item.
They're very nice. Is there anyone in the audience who has any comments regarding this application? If so, please come forward. preliminary, not final. Final, you're gonna have to conform with all of the comments and changes that were suggested during the course of this hearing. Second, please. Vice Chairman Ross, second. Your mic's not working, they don't have a mic. Marta, please call roll.
Commissioner Gonzalez? Aye. Commissioner Gonzalez? Aye. Commissioner Callahan?
Aye.
Commissioner Brown? Aye. Secretary Irvin?
Aye.
Commissioner Southall?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Ross? Aye. Chairman Thomas?
Aye. And we're going to take a 5-minute recess before the next case.